The alarm buzzes, the ceiling looks the same, and the dull weight of yesterday still lingers in the air like a residue. You roll over, glance at your phone, and the screen glows with obligations, missed messages, and noise. The world, without asking, has already started speaking to you. But here's the truth no one tells you. The world's voice should never be the first voice you hear. Yours should. Because what you say first thing in the morning is not small talk. It's an instruction manual, a neurological script, a chemical trigger. It tells your body what to expect. It gives your day a name, your thoughts a direction, your soul a role. And the people who win at life, the ones who seem magnetic, driven, unshakable, they don't stumble into that energy. They command it the moment they wake up. The average person starts their day by downloading stress. They replay yesterday's mistakes, preview tomorrow's fears, and rehearse a role they secretly hate. Their first thought is often, "I'm tired." And then without knowing it, their body begins building a reality around that sentence. Their brain scans for fatigue, their posture collapses, their energy shrinks to fit the story they just whispered into existence. But what if you interrupted that pattern with a new voice? What if the first sentence you spoke in the morning wasn't a reaction, but a declaration, a phrase so charged with self-possession that even your doubts would hesitate to interrupt it? This is where change begins. Not with goals, not with vision boards, with a single moment of verbal power spoken before the world tells you who you're supposed to be. Say it out loud even if you're unsure. I am not available for mediocrity today. Say it before your inner critic starts its morning shift. Say it before the weight of your inbox sits on your chest. Because that sentence, that's a boundary. It separates the old you to decide. He, one who tolerated the slow decay of their potential, from the new version who refuses to negotiate with smallness. The mind is a pattern machine. It believes whatever it hears most. And if the first voice it hears every day is uncertain, hesitant, or regretful, it will shape your entire physiology to match. But speak with certainty and you trigger a different protocol. Your brain floods with attention. Your spine realigns. Your perception sharpens. Your subconscious begins scanning the day for evidence that the sentence you spoke is real. You don't need a crowd. You don't need a stage. You don't even need belief at first. All you need is repetition. Power is accumulated through frequency, not volume. Every time you say something empowering in the morning, you reinforce a neural thread that makes quitting feel foreign and confidence feel familiar. Let's take it deeper. When you say, "Today I create momentum," you're not just being poetic. You're issuing a command to your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters reality based on what you tell it to prioritize. It will begin noticing opportunities, aligning your behavior, adjusting your emotions, and rewiring your decision-making to match that momentum. And the beautiful thing, it doesn't ask for permission, it obeys. Now imagine the difference between two mornings, one where you say nothing, where your body waits for caffeine to simulate life and your mind drifts into the same survival loop, and one where before your feet touch the floor you whisper, "I am no longer available for delay, distraction, or despair." That sentence becomes your firewall. It filters out everything that doesn't match the frequency of purpose. People underestimate language because they think it's symbolic, but in truth, language is biological. Words produce chemicals. Words shape muscles. Words don't just describe your reality, they construct it. There's a reason ancient rituals, healing ceremonies, and spiritual systems across history always started with speech. Words cast shadows. Words mark territory. Words tell the universe what to build. And if you start your day with silence, the world fills in the blanks. But if you speak first and you speak with precision, your world has no choice but to follow your lead. You've been taught to think that morning routines need to be elaborate. Journaling, green juice, 5 a.m. workouts, all of that is noise if your first thought is still laced with defeat. You can meditate for an hour, but if your first sentence is, "I don't feel like it today," the meditation wears off in minutes. But if your first phrase is, "I've already decided who I am today," then your rituals become reinforcement, not rescue. The first sentence is the spear. Everything else is the armor. Let this be your first sentence tomorrow. I don't need motivation, I have momentum. It sounds small, but it repositions you as someone who's already in motion. It removes the excuse of waiting to feel ready. It deletes the passive stance and installs the active one. Your mind hears that and begins calculating in real time what action must follow to maintain coherence with the sentence. You don't need the perfect words, you need the real ones, the sharp ones, the ones that pierce your autopilot mode and cut through the fog. Sentences like, I'm dangerous when focused, or I forgive who I was yesterday, but I'm not dragging them with me. Or, my life is not on hold, I am the trigger. These aren't affirmations, they're declarations. There's a difference. Affirmations are often hopeful, soft, and repetitive. Declarations are charged, grounded, and unshakable. When you speak them first thing in the morning, you're not hoping for change. You're installing it. And you'll know it's working when things start resisting you. That voice that says, this is stupid, that's proof of the old self dying. That fatigue that flares up after your sentence, that's the body recalibrating. That moment of discomfort is not failure, it's friction. And friction means movement. So tomorrow, don't just get out of bed. Rise like someone who already owns the day. Speak like someone whose life depends on it, because it does. Your mood, your choices, your energy, all of them orbit around the gravitational pull of that first sentence. Let the first thing you say be a battle cry. Let it be a decision dressed as a sentence. Let it be the kind of phrase that makes the rest of your day feel like a sequel to your strength, not your struggle. Say it before the doubt arrives. Say it before the world makes a demand. Say it because the voice that speaks first wins. There is a moment right after your first sentence when the silence listens. Not the silence outside, but the silence within. That brief pause where your inner world waits for your next instruction. Most people let that pause be filled by habit, but the ones who rise above their patterns, they fill that space with precision. They follow the first word with a second, then a third, and each one sharpens the edge of their awareness. Because it's not just what you say once that changes you, it's what you say consistently. And consistency is not about robotic repetition, it's about emotional reinforcement. The difference between a forgotten phrase and a life-altering one is whether you let it echo. That echo becomes your environment. A sentence said once is noise. A sentence said daily is architecture. You begin to build a different kind of internal room when your morning is stacked with deliberate sentences, not hopeful ones, certain ones. Phrases that sound like they've already happened, because the subconscious doesn't argue. It follows tone, rhythm, and authority. When you say, I am already aligned with my future, your inner skeptic doesn't get to vote. It simply takes notes. That's the shift. You're not asking for power. You're assuming it. Not from arrogance, but from clarity. Not from delusion, but from design. You speak as if the version of you you're building already exists, because in a way they do. Potential doesn't live in the future. It lives in the words you're brave enough to speak right now. So let your mornings be a ceremony, not a routine. The difference is subtle but profound. A routine is something you survive. A ceremony is something you step into. When you rise and say, everything I need is already inside me, you're not creating confidence, you're summoning it. You're reaching into the parts of yourself you've kept quiet and pulling them into the light. And here's the secret, when your mornings change, your identity follows. Because identity isn't fixed, it's sculpted. And words are the chisel. If you want to be seen as disciplined, speak discipline before your feet hit the ground. If you want to be unstoppable, say it before your mouth even tastes water. You're not pretending, you're calibrating. This is not magic, it's biology. Morning speech affects cortisol, dopamine, and focus. It sets the tone for your nervous system. Most people hand their physiology over to circumstance, but you can hijack it with language, and the most effective sentences are the ones that leave no room for negotiation. Say, today I move with purpose, not permission. That phrase is a sword. It slices through all the invisible threads of hesitation woven into your habits. It reminds your brain that waiting is a trap, that clarity is a product of motion, not meditation, that the world responds to the energy you carry, not the plans you overthink. And when resistance shows up, because it always will, have a phrase that doesn't ask it to leave but makes it irrelevant, like, my discomfort is proof of my transformation. You stop seeing resistance as a red light. You treat it as a signpost that you're stepping outside the shell that no longer fits. Language becomes a weapon when it stops trying to be liked and starts trying to be true. And the truest phrases are the ones that pierce the versions of you that still seek permission to live fully. If you still flinch at the idea of speaking boldly to yourself, that's not humility, it's programming. So deprogram yourself every morning with language that leaves no space for the old voice to creep in. Say, I am not who I was, I am who I choose. That sentence doesn't erase the past, it reclaims it. It tells your memory, you're not a witness to my downfall, you're fuel for my becoming. The more precise your language, the less room there is for doubt. General affirmations make you feel good. Specific declarations make you feel powerful. Stop saying, I am enough. Start saying, I am the kind of person who finishes what I start, no matter how I feel. That's a standard. And standards anchor identity. And don't just speak power, speak responsibility. Say, I own everything I attract today. That one line turns you from a victim of chaos into a student of consequence. It reframes inconvenience as feedback, not punishment. It rewires your mind to ask, not why is this happening to me, but what is this showing me about myself? In that shift, a strange thing happens. You stop blaming. You stop wishing, you stop outsourcing your happiness to the next milestone. And that stillness, that grounded presence, it doesn't just make you focused, it makes you magnetic. People feel it. Reality bends around it. You no longer stumble into confidence, you declare it. You don't pray for clarity, you create it. You don't hope to become disciplined. You declare discipline until your actions match your words. That's how self-trust is built. Not by feeling ready, but by being consistent. Let your voice be the first proof that you believe in yourself. Let it be loud enough to drown out yesterday. Let it be sharp enough to cut through every excuse you've ever used to hide from your potential. Let it be sacred. Not because it's perfect, but because it's deliberate. Every morning you are a blank page. Every sentence is a pen stroke. You can write defeat, you can write delay, or you can write destiny. And the only thing that separates those scripts is the courage to speak with conviction, even when your hands are still shaking. You don't have to wait to feel inspired. You don't have to wait for the right moment. You are the moment. And if no one else reminds you of that, let your own voice be the proof. Say it now. Say it without apology. Say it like the future depends on it, because it does. Some days the sentences come out effortlessly. Other days they feel forced, like trying to light a fire with wet matches. That's the test. Not whether you can speak powerfully when you feel powerful, but whether you'll speak powerfully when you feel like nothing. That's when your voice matters most, not to impress others, but to resurrect yourself. You say it anyway, because that's what leadership looks like when no one is watching. You become your own authority. You stop waiting for a breakthrough and start becoming one. Every word, a nail in the coffin of who you no longer wish to be. Every phrase, a brick in the foundation of the self you're tired of postponing. The world has trained you to consume language, headlines, posts, podcasts, but the game changes when you stop being a consumer of speech and become a creator of it. When the words that shape your life aren't stolen from someone else's success story, but forged in the heat of your own silence. That's where real identity is born. Not through imitation, but through authorship. It's not enough to say what sounds good. You must say what rewrites the script you've been living. If your default thought is fear, then say, my fear is a signal, not a stop sign. Speak it like you're training your nervous system to hear something new, because that's exactly what you're doing. Neuroplasticity doesn't respond to passivity, it responds to fire, precision, repetition with emotion. Your biology listens closely when you speak like you mean it. It listens to volume, yes, but even more to vibe. The deeper the conviction, the faster the transformation. Say, I'm building a life my future self will thank me for. And don't say it gently. Say it like you've decided, like there's no room for alternative endings. This is the death of vague living, the end of drifting. You are not a wanderer, you are a designer, and your blueprint begins in your morning voice. No matter what yesterday was, no matter what failures stack behind you, there's a phrase that slices through the fog. The past is a lesson. I'm here to graduate. Speak it. Believe it later if you must, but speak it now. Because the body doesn't just obey logic, it obeys story, your story. And the story changes with each sentence you dare to say aloud. This is where new timelines begin, not in fantasies or goals, but in phrases spoken into stale air with unshakable energy. You begin to notice something. Your environment starts echoing you back. The world isn't magical, it's reactive. It mirrors your consistency. The more you speak with purpose, the more you attract what matches it, not overnight, but undeniably. People feel the shift. Challenges arrive differently. Synchronicities increase, not because life got easier, but because you got louder inside. Your voice becomes a lighthouse, not just for others, but for yourself. A fixed beam in the storm. Say, even when everything feels uncertain, I remain unmoved. That's not denial, that's discipline. That's sovereignty over emotion. That's refusing to let chaos rewrite your character. There's a point where words stop being performance and start becoming identity. You say things so often that you don't even flinch when they come out anymore. You don't doubt them. You don't weigh them. They feel native. That's fluency. You become fluent in your future before it arrives. And the phrases evolve with you. They become sharper, shorter, more atomic. Instead of saying, I believe in myself, you say, watch me. Instead of saying, I hope I make it, you whisper, I'm already chosen. These are not declarations of ego. They're declarations of alignment. You're not faking greatness, you're remembering it. You will feel resistance, especially when your voice contradicts your current circumstances. That's the paradox. Your life looks one way, but your words paint a different picture. That's not delusion. That's leadership. All change starts as contradiction. Only later does it become consensus. So you keep speaking, not for validation, for clarity, for focus, for proof. You say, every obstacle sharpens me. You say, I run toward discomfort. You say, I no longer need permission to live fully. And slowly, the world catches up to your voice. It's easy to think this is about motivation. It's not. Motivation fades. What you're building is identity gravity, a force so strong your actions can't help but orbit around your words. Habits start bending, relationships shift, distractions lose their flavor because your internal frequency no longer matches your old vices. You're not just changing how you talk, you're changing what you tolerate. When you speak like someone who's already arrived, you stop entertaining thoughts that delay your departure. You stop engaging conversations that shrink your soul. You stop agreeing to plans that insult your future. The sentence becomes a filter. Say, I am unavailable for anything that weakens my focus. That one line cuts entire patterns out of your life without needing a 10-step plan. Your energy becomes expensive, your time becomes sacred, your presence becomes felt, and on days when none of it feels real, when your words tremble and your doubt screams louder than your voice, you say them anyway. That's the moment you build self-trust. Not when it's easy, but when it's required. Your future self doesn't need you to be perfect, it needs you to be persistent, so you craft a new sentence, one that lives in your bones, one you can say even when you're half asleep, half broken, half believing. Say, I don't break, I bend and rebuild. Say, I create even when I'm uncertain. Say, my voice is a contract with my destiny. Then stand in it, even when it feels shaky, even when your voice shakes, because that shaking, that's momentum. That's you crossing the bridge from who you were into who you're becoming. And the only toll for that bridge is the courage to speak like you mean it. There's a moment right between your final sentence and your first step where life listens. It doesn't respond with thunder or applause. It simply rearranges quietly, subtly, and only in favor of those who've spoken with intention. That's the law. The world doesn't reward noise, it rewards clarity. So when you walk out into your day, your voice should still echo in your bloodstream, not as background noise, but as guidance, not as motivation, but as blueprint. The phrases you spoke in the dark are now the lines you trace in daylight. You don't wait to feel aligned. You move like someone who's already calibrated. People will wonder what changed. You'll look the same. You'll still drink the same coffee, walk the same street, wear the same clothes, but there will be something unspoken in your presence, something too sharp to ignore. That's what happens when your inner dialogue is no longer polluted by indecision. It becomes obvious. Your focus is heavier. Your distractions feel irrelevant. Your goals stop needing affirmation. Because when your morning sentences are crafted with precision, your day stops looking like a reaction and starts looking like a strategy. Most of the world is improvising. They're acting out roles they never auditioned for. They're living stories they didn't write, but not you, not anymore. Your script begins the moment you speak, and every action that follows is just a continuation of what you already declared. You're not chasing clarity, you're executing it. And clarity is loud, even when whispered. It shows up in how you say no without guilt. It shows up in how you protect your time like it's sacred currency. It shows up in how you let go of people who can't hear the new language you're speaking. Not everyone will understand your shift. That's fine. Your sentences aren't auditions for approval, they're mirrors. And some people don't like what they reflect. You're not here to convince them. You're here to live in alignment with the voice you finally decided to trust. So protect it. Guard it like it's holy. Don't let your old environment dilute your new vocabulary. Don't let temporary emotions vandalize permanent decisions. You've spoken like the person you've always needed to be. Now make sure your behavior keeps up. And when the voice of doubt returns, because it always circles back, don't silence it with force. Replace it with precision. Doubt feeds on vagueness. It withers in front of specific, intentional thought. When you say, I am built for this moment, there's no loophole for uncertainty to crawl through. Language like that isn't poetic. It's protective. You've turned speech into armor, and not the kind that weighs you down, the kind that frees you, because the right words don't restrict, they release. They release old shame, they release generational scripts. They release identities that were inherited instead of chosen. And what remains? Something terrifying to the world but familiar to your soul. Someone who speaks their future into the present and then dares to live like it's already real. That's the new standard. You don't beg the world to give you peace. You speak it first. I move in calm no matter the chaos. You don't plead for inspiration. You declare your role. I am the source, not the seeker. You don't flinch in the face of pressure. You remind yourself, I was built in fire, I do not melt. These are not mantras, they're blueprints. They're not just for the morning. They're for moments when your energy slips, when your courage falters, when your vision gets cloudy. They pull you back. They keep your identity intact when everything else tries to unravel it. Because let's be honest, life won't always match your voice immediately. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes longer. But the gap between what you say and what you see isn't punishment, it's preparation. And preparation happens in repetition. Every time you speak your truth again, even when the evidence disagrees, you build resilience, not blind hope, anchored certainty. You stop being moved by mood, you start being moved by mission. That's where power lives, not in outcomes, but in ownership. When you say, no matter what happens today, I will remain aligned with who I said I am, you don't need the day to go your way. You just need to go your way, regardless of the day. And if you do that, if you honor the script you spoke before the sun even rose, you begin to unlock something rare: integrity. Not just the moral kind, but the structural kind. A life that holds its shape, even under pressure. A mind that stays focused, even when circumstances scatter. A heart that stays open, even when it hurts. That's the gift of speaking first, of taking your voice off mute, of becoming the director, not just the actor. It's easy to forget, but every morning you are given a choice. Recycle yesterday's language or write something worth becoming. One feels safe, the other feels alive. Choose the one that stretches you. Choose the one that breaks the loop. Choose the one that feels like a challenge to your past and a handshake to your future. And keep choosing it again and again, even when no one notices. Especially when no one notices, because the audience isn't the world. It's you, the version of you 5 years from now. 10, the one who's watching to see if you kept your promise. So speak like someone who has something to lose if they don't. Speak like someone whose silence costs them their purpose. Speak like the future is already listening, because it is. Your words are not just noise. They're the scaffolding of a life that never settles. They are the border between old habits and new reality. They are the beginning of every miracle you'll ever build. So tomorrow morning, before the world makes its demands, make yours. Say it with clarity, say it with heat, say it like there's no going back.